context. Yes, I'm live now. This is SAHOO and you are watching SAHOO's tutorial. Welcome once again to another video. Do join quickly. And you all know that I am conducting mock test series for the upcoming MPSET exam that will be conducted on Sunday. So this is and let me share the link of this video in my Telegram channel. Do join quickly. Yes, and here I will be covering some important literary theory questions based on literary theory. Okay, do join quickly. Due to some technical issues, I was not able to conduct the class from 10 p.m. Okay, now let's begin here. Okay, so without wasting your time, let's begin the video here. And quickly, I'll be covering more than 30 important MCQ questions here. Okay, do join quickly. Is everything okay? Please do let me know. Is everything okay? Yeah. Those who have already joined, please do let me know. Is everything okay here? Okay, let's begin the session without wasting your time. And those who have not joined it, you can join the session. It will be available in the playlist as well as in the live section. Okay. Before starting the session, this is my humble request to all the aspirants. Please make sure to subscribe our channel and tap the bell icon to get more notification, and to stay updated, please do join the Telegram channel, that is SAHOO UGCnet. To stay updated regarding the classes, do join the Telegram channel, that is SAHOO UGCnet. So here is the first question on your screen. Please do answer in the comment box. Let's get started with this question number 1 here. Which year was Shakespeare The Invention of the Human, written by Harold Bloom? So Harold Bloom had written this work, Shakespeare, The Invention of the Human, written by Harold Bloom. 1988, 1999, 1998, 2008, 1978. Which year was Shakespeare, The Invention of Human, written by Harold Bloom? Harold Bloom has written this work, and what is the publication date? So here the right option is 1998. Okay, 1998 is the right option. Shakespeare, Invention of Human. This one was published in 1998, and remember that this book was written by Harold Bloom. Harold Bloom had written Shakespeare, The Invention of the Human. Okay, and here is the explanation. In his literary survey, Shakespeare, The Invention of the Human, published in 1998, Bloom provided an analysis of each of Shakespeare's 38 plays, 24 of which are masterpieces, he said. Okay. Who was Sigmund Freud's colleague and biographer? Who was Sigmund Freud, colleague and biographer? Good evening, Saurabh. Good evening. The first question was that here, that is Shakespeare and the Invention of the Human, written by Harold Bloom, published in 1998. That was by Harold Bloom. Harold Bloom has written Shakespeare, The Invention of the Human. Okay. And here, who was the Sigmund Freud's colleague and biographer? The biographer. Remember the biographer of Sigmund Freud: Carl Jung, Alfred Adler, Melvin Klein, Ernest Jones. Who was actually the biographer of Sigmund Freud? Carl Jung, Alfred Adler, Melvin Klein, Ernest Jones. So what would be the right answer here? Who was Sigmund Freud's colleague and biographer? How are you all? Do like the sessions and share with your friends as well, and do answer in the comment box as well. Here is question number 2 on your screen. So the Sigmund Freud's colleague and biographer was here Ernest Jones. Okay, Ernest Jones was Sigmund Freud biographer. Remember, Sigmund Freud's biographer कौन था? Ernest Jones था. ठीक है, and he was a colleague as well. Who has written the work that is called Hamlet and Oedipus, published in 1949? So who is the writer of Hamlet and Oedipus? Who is the? देखो 1947 में कौन सा बुक पब्लिश हुआ था? 1948 में कौन सा बुक पब्लिश हुआ था? 1949 में इधर पे क्या है? Hamlet and Oedipus. So tell me, yesterday or probably day before yesterday I was discussing 1947 में the work that was by Clint Brooks. What was the name of the work? 1948 that was the work by F.R. Lewis. What was the name of the work? And here 1949 by that is Hamlet and Oedipus. किसने लिखा है? Carl Jung, Harold Bloom, Ernest and Erik Erikson. Who has written Hamlet and Oedipus? The work published in 1949. So in 1947 the book that was published by Clint Brooks was The Well Wrought Urn. In 1948 in 1948. The work that was published in 1948. Pratik. Okay, excellent Pratik. Here Ernest Jones is the right answer. Excellent. Ernest Jones has written Hamlet and Oedipus. How are you Pratik? So Ernest Jones has written Hamlet and Oedipus, that was published in 1949. 1948 में published हुआ था F.R. Lewis का Great Tradition. F.R. Lewis का The Great Tradition. The Great Tradition by F.R. Lewis was published in 1948. Whereas 1947 में published हुआ था that is Clint Brooks का Clint Brooks, the new critic Clint Brooks का The Well-Wrought Urn. The Well-Wrought Urn. The title of this work, The Well-Wrought Urn, has been taken from that is John Donne's canonization. Okay, remember. ठीक है. Hamlet and Oedipus, the study of William Shakespeare's Hamlet, in which title characters' inexplicable behavior are subjected to investigation along psychoanalytic lines. The study was written by Sigmund Freud's colleague and biographer Ernest Jones. So Sigmund Freud का biographer कौन था? Ernest Jones था, and he has written the work Hamlet and Oedipus. Okay, got it. Next question. In which year was the Interpretation of Dreams originally published? Now first tell me who has written. किसने लिखा था this work? Interpretation of Dreams. In which year was the Interpretation of Dreams originally published? Interpretation of Dreams was published in which year, and who has written? Do like the session and share with your friends as well, and write the answer here in the comment box. In which year was the Interpretation of Dreams originally published? Excellent. It was Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud has written Interpretation of Dreams, published in exactly in 1899. Remember, okay, 1899 is the right answer. So Interpretation of Dreams by Sigmund Freud, published in 1899. Remember, ठीक है? Excellent. Moving on to question number 5 here. We'll be quickly covering. The Interpretation of Dreams is an 1899 book by Sigmund Freud, the founder of psychoanalysis. He was the founder of psychoanalysis, in which the author introduces his theory of the unconscious with respect to dream interpretation, discusses what would later become the theory of the Oedipus complex, and that will be moving to Oedipus complex. And Freud revised the book at least 8 times. He had revised the books 8 times, and in third edition added an extensive section which treated dream symbolism very literally, following the influence of Wilhelm Stickel. Freud said of the work that as insight such as the falls to one's Lord but once in a lifetime. Insight suggests this falls to one's Lord but once in a lifetime. That is why about the interpretation of dreams, where he has also talked about Oedipus complex. That will lead to Oedipus complex. What is the main function of post-colonial criticism? What is the main function of post-colonial criticism? To represent the relationship between colonizers and colonized, to draw attention to the positive effects of colonization and literature, to explain why there are few examples of successful non-Western literature, or to show the ways in which most Western literature is superior. What is the main function of post-colonial literature? Post-colonial criticism का function क्या है? The main function. What is the main function of post-colonial criticism? Excellent, good, excellent. It is to represent the relationship between colonizer and the colonized. Excellent, Saurabh, excellent. It is to represent the relationship between the colonizers and the colonized. Actually, the main function of post-colonial criticism. Excellent. Moving on to question number 6 here. An Elizabethan Puritan critic denounced the poets as what are the claims that father of light, school of abuse, caterpillars of a commonwealth. Mark him out from the following critics. Okay, critics. Okay, excellent, Pratik. So an Elizabethan Puritan, that is father of lies, school of abuse, जिसने डिनाउंस किया था पोएट को कैसे बोल के, father of lies, school of abuse, caterpillars of commonwealth, Stephen Gerson, the school of abuse. You were right actually, Pratik. Okay, यह 6 का C होगा. Got it? चलो, excellent. Moving on to question 7 here. According to Coleridge's biography literature, now interesting concept here. Sort of got it. Excellent. According to Coleridge's biography literature, how does he differentiate between a poem and poetry? So do you know that there is a difference between poem and poetry? There is a difference between poem and poetry. What is poem and what is poetry? You see, by in biography literaria, Coleridge has differentiated poem from poetry. Okay. A poem is a mental activity while poetry is a physical expression. A poetry is a mental activity while poem is physical expression. A poem and poetry are the same thing, can be used interchangeably. A poem is a creative process while poetry is a literary form. What would be the right answer here? So in biography literaria, Coleridge has differentiated poem and poetry, and he has given different definitions of poem and poetry in biography literaria. What is poem and what is poetry? Now, what would be the right answer here? Do answer. 7. Exactly. Fantastic. Incredible. Here, this is incredible. Here. Okay. This is the audacious attempt. Okay. So poetry is actually a mental activity. That is the process, the making, the process of making a poem is actually poetry. Poetry is a mental activity, while a poem is actually its physical expression. ठीक है? Is the process. जो poem is actually a form. Poem is the form of expression. ठीक है? Whereas the process is actually the poetry. The process of making the poem is actually poetry, whereas the poem is actually a form of expression. That is, poetry is a mental activity while poem is its physical expression, and he has given in Biographia Literaria. And here is the explanation. You see, Coleridge distinguishes poem from poetry in his biographical literaria. ठीक है? He opines that poetry is wider term. क्या है? Poetry क्या है? Universal wider term है. यानी एक अम्ब्रेला टर्म के अंदर पोएट्री के अंदर क्या है? पोएम है. ठीक है? सो पोएट्री इज अ वाइडर टर्म देन अ पोएम. पोएट्री क्या है? बहुत बड़ा वाइडर टर्म है देन अ पोएम. What is poetry? Poetry is an activity of poet's mind. That is the when a poet is making a poet actually. ठीक है? The process of making a poem. Process of making a poem is actually that is actually poetry. Poetry is an activity of poet's mind, but a poem is actually merely one of the forms of its expression. Poetic creativity is basically an activity of imagination. So poetic creativity क्या है? Basically an activity of imagination. Next question. In Dryden's essay of dramatic poetry, there are 4 interlocutors. That is dialogues. Okay, and representing 4 different ideologies. They were expressed by Dryden's own views. Lycidius, Eugenius, Neander, Critias. बोलो. बहुत easy है. बहुत बार करवा चुके हैं पहले. So poetry is a broader term. Poem is the form of expression. Poetry is actually making of poetry, making a poem, the process, mental activity. 8 is on the screen here. In Dryden's essay of dramatic poetry. Chalo, Dryden is here. The Neander is actually the mouthpiece. Neander was actually the mouthpiece. The mouthpiece of whom? The mouthpiece of Dryden. ठीक है? Or Dryden's mouthpiece is actually Neander. Dryden's mouthpiece is actually Neander. ठीक है? चलो. What book did Harold Bloom write in 1994, where he advocated for a conservative viewpoint on literature? Harold Bloom ने क्या लिखा था? What book did Harold Bloom write in 1994, where he advocated for a conservative viewpoint on literature? The Age of Art, Literature Through the Ages, the Western Canon, the Books and Schools of the Ages, Challenging Literary Norms. What is the name of the book that was written by Harold Bloom in 1994, where he advocated for a conservative viewpoint on literature? What would be the right answer here? Question number 9 is on your screen. Yeah, again this is C. Remember, this is the famous work by Harold Bloom, the Western Canon. This is the subtitle, the Books and Schools of the Ages. Remember this work. This is the famous work by Harold Bloom, the Western Canon. So C is excellent, incredible. Here C is the right answer. In 1994, Harold Bloom has starting professor of humanities at Yale University and Barnes professor of English at New York. University wrote the Western canon, the books and schools of the ages. I earlier had talked about the Yale school में कौन था, that is the Derrida's का जो disciple था ना, Derrida's disciple and Harold Bloom. Yale School of Criticism बोले थे ना पहले, Derrida's disciples and Harold Bloom, they are members of Yale School, Yale University, that is Yale School of Criticism. So Western canon क्या लिखा था, he had written the Western canon, the books and schools of the ages, in which he argued for the more conservative viewpoint, the literature should follow the art for art's sake. क्या viewpoint दिया था, the literature should follow the art for art's sake, aestheticism. ठीक है, चलो. Who are the Yale School of Criticism, the members of, that is Derrida and Derrida's disciples, and Harold Bloom was also there. Which book did Harold Bloom dedicate to William K. Wimsett? Okay, and William K. Wimsett with Mundo Beardsley had collaboratively coined the phrase like affective fallacy and intentional fallacy. So in his work, The Verbal Icon. ठीक है, so which book here? Derrida's disciples are okay, let me tell you, Derrida's disciples are actually John Stuart Mill, ठीक है, J.H. Miller, oh sorry, was it Geoffrey Hardman, John Stuart, sorry, Paul D. Man was था, Paul D. Man, Geoffrey Hardman, was it J.H. Miller? Yeah, it was not John Stuart Mill, it was J.H. Miller. Okay, remember, it was J.H. Miller, बोलो J.H. Miller था, Paul D. Man था, Geoffrey Hardman था. ठीक है, कौन था? J.H. Miller, Paul D. Man yesterday I discussed Allegories of Dream, जिसने लिखा था J.H. Miller, Paul D. Man, Geoffrey Hardman. ठीक है, they are Derrida's disciple. ठीक है, J.H. Miller, Paul D. Man, Geoffrey Hardman. ठीक है, चलो. Which book did Harold Bloom dedicate to William K. Wimsett several years after his time at Yale? The Art of Literary Criticism, The Anxiety of Influence, Class of Scholars, The Yale Chronicles. Have you got it? I am writing down here. Okay, it was not John Stuart Mill, it was J.H. Miller. Okay, J.H. Miller. Then we had Paul D. Man. Then you have Geoffrey Hardman, Hartman. ठीक है, and one of the, I can't remember the other one, there was another person also, J.H. Miller, Paul D. Man, Geoffrey Hardman, and one person was also there, J.H. Miller, Paul D. Man, Geoffrey Hardman. Okay, J.H. Miller, Paul D. Man, Geoffrey Hardman. Okay, चलो here William K. Wimsett, which book did Harold Bloom dedicate? There are total 4 members. Okay, right now I can remember only three members actually, J.H. Miller, Paul D. Man, Geoffrey Hardman, and I can remember the other name. Okay, so here Harold Bloom had dedicated William K. Wimsett to William K. Wimsett the work that was Anxiety of Influence. Okay, the Anxiety of Influence. The Anxiety of Influence is the work that Harold Bloom had dedicated to William K. Wimsett. The Anxiety of Influence. Now, Bloom was a standout student at Yale, where he clashed with the faculty of linguistics, that is William K. Wimsett. Several years later, Bloom dedicated his book, The Anxiety of Influence, to William K. Wimsett. ठीक है. Now, read this question and answer. And let me take it once more. Okay. Yeah, these three were actually, ठीक है, these three people were These three people were American disciples of these three were actually okay. चलो इस थ्री को रिमेंबर करो, दिस थ्री आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, ठीक है, जॉफरी हार्डमैन जो भी है जो चलो here the right answer is in his work of Shakespeare, in his work Shakespeare the invention of human, Harold Bloom had actually got it. So in his work Shakespeare the invention of the human, Harold Bloom analyzed how many Shakespeare plays. देखो Shakespeare you see all the 38 plays, Shakespeare had written 38 plays, ठीक है. So he had analyzed how many Shakespeare plays, 38 plays, ठीक है. Remember this is how we can remember, ठीक है. Shakespeare the invention of the human, Harold Bloom had analyzed how many Shakespeare plays, 38 plays, ठीक है. 38 is the right answer, got it. In his later survey of Shakespeare the invention of the human published in 1998, Harold Bloom provided an analysis of the use of Shakespeare 38 plays and उनमें से 24 plays were masterpiece. He had said that इनमें से 24 plays are masterpiece. He had analyzed total 38 plays, each of Shakespeare 38 plays, and 24 of which are masterpieces. 24 were masterpieces. ठीक है. Harold Bloom. Who wrote the poem Requiem? Robert Louis Stevenson, William Shakespeare, Samuel Johnson, John Milton. Who has written the poem called Requiem? Got it? Who has written the poem called Requiem? That's why I was telling to join today's session only. These are all new questions. Okay, they're important questions from literary theory. Who wrote the poem here? Requiem. Robert Louis Stevenson, William Shakespeare, Samuel Johnson, and John Milton. If you don't know, please tell me, then I will be moving forward. If you don't know, please do tell me. Please do let me know. Okay, then I will be moving forward, and I will be explaining the questions now as well as the answer as well. Okay, the poem here, the Requiem was actually written by there are two poems. Okay, there are two poems. Okay, called Requiem, named as Requiem. Here it was the poem. The option is actually given Robert Louis Stevenson. So R.L. Stevenson, Robert Louis Stevenson has written the poem Requiem. And here is the explanation. You see that in 1879, Stevenson went to California to marry Fanny Osborne. ठीक है. His health was broken there, and he found himself extremely close to death. It led him to think about his death, and he wrote the poem Requiem as an epitaph. देखो, as an epitaph for his grave. ऐसे याद रखना, ठीक है. रिक्वेम जो एपिटेट किसका ग्रेव में है? रॉबर्ट लुइस स्टीफेंसन का है. रॉबर्ट लुइस स्टीफेंसन का एपिटेट उसका ग्रेव में, दिस इज एन एपिटेट. ओके, ही रोट द पोएम रिक्वेम एज एन एपिटेट फॉर हिज ग्रेव. ठीक है. ही वांटेड दिस लाइंस टू बी inscribed on his tomb. That's why this poem is very important. The Requiem is a poem by Robert Louis Stevenson. It led him to think about his death, and he wrote the poem Requiem as an epitaph for his grave, and he wanted these lines to be inscribed on his tomb. ठीक है. There is also another poem also by Anna Akhmatov. ठीक है. That is an elegy. Requiem is also another poem, an elegy. It is an elegy by Anna Akhmatov about the suffering of people under the Great Purge. It was written over 3 decades between 1935 and 1961, and she carried it with her. Reading, she worked and lived in towns, cities across the Soviet Union. ठीक है. That is also a poem by Anna Akhmatova. Next question. What is the title of Bradley's collection? That is A.C. Bradley. A.C. Bradley. Harold Bloom. Then you have A.C. Bradley. They are actually Shakespearean critics. Okay. They have analyzed the works of Shakespeare. They are known famously for the works. They have analyzed the works of Shakespeare. Harold Bloom, A.C. Bradley. A.C. Bradley is the most famous one here. ठीक है. And what is the title of A.C. Bradley's collection of lectures from his time as a professor, when he was a professor of poetry, at the University of Oxford. ठीक है. Oxford Insight into Shakespearean Insights, Oxford Lectures on the Literature and Poetry, or Oxford Lectures on Poetry. What is the title of A.C. Bradley's collection of lectures from his time as a professor of poetry at the University of Oxford? So here the right answer is actually Oxford Lectures on Poetry. Here B, no, it is actually Oxford Lectures on Poetry. Oxford Lectures on Poetry. B is D is the right answer. Oxford Lectures on Poetry. You see that during which 5 years in which in this post he produced one work, that is Shakespearean Tragedy, the famous one, published in 1904. Shakespearean Tragedy. Remember this work, Shakespearean Tragedy. Shakespearean Tragedy by Harold Bloom. कौन है? Harold Bloom ने, ठीक है? Sorry, कहाँ चला गया? Okay. Here, okay. This is Shakespearean Tragedy. This is by A.C. Bradley. Sorry, A.C. Bradley. A.C. Bradley has written Shakespearean Tragedy and Oxford Lectures on Poetry. ठीक है. Bradley also published Oxford Lectures on Poetry 1909, which includes an essay on Shakespeare which includes an essay on Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra, a miscellany 1929 also. ठीक है. Shakespearean Tragedy by A.C. Bradley, Oxford Lectures on Poetry also by A.C. Bradley, who argued that opium users during the Romantic era became inspired to ecstasies. Important questions when experiencing opium effects. Here he is actually referring to Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Here this reference to Samuel Taylor Coleridge, but the question is that who argued that opium users during the Romantic era became inspired to ecstasies. Ecstasies means overjoyed. ठीक है. When experiencing opium's effects. Sigmund Freud, William Morse, John Keats, M.H. Abrams. Who argued this? Here the right answer is M.H. Abrams. Okay, M.H. Abrams argued that, and here is the explanation. So D is the right answer. M.H. Abrams argued that opium users during the Romantic era became inspired to ecstasies. ठीक है, when experiencing opium's effects start with ठीक है. So M.H. Abrams argued that opium users during the Romantic era became inspired to ecstasy. This is M.H. Abrams. Next question. Who wrote the book called William Faulkner Toward Ignopatwa and Beard? This is a novel. किसने लिखा था? Edward Said, Clint Brooks, Harold Bloom. Who wrote the book William Faulkner Toward Ignopatwa and Beard? So do you know that William Faulkner's novels were based on this fictional setting? This is a fictional setting of the novel. The fictional setting of his novels, that is Ignopatwa by William Faulkner. William Faulkner has created this fictional place called Ignopatwa. And who has written this novel called William Faulkner Toward Ignopatwa, The Bee Hunt? Edward Said, Clint Brooks, Harold Bloom, none of them. किसने लिखा है? I am giving the clue here. The clue is actually it is Clint Brooks. Okay, Clint Brooks. Okay, the new critics. Clint Brooks, the new critics, has written William Faulkner Toward Ignopatwa and Bee Hunt. Remember that also. Clint Brooks has written William Faulkner Toward Ignopatwa and Bee Hunt. Who among the following displays in her best work the dual influences of feminism and magic realism? क्या है? Feminism भी है, magic realism भी है. Who among the following displays here in her best work the dual influence of feminism and magic realism? Under these questions very informative. Pat Barker, Muriel Spark, Angela Carter, J.K. Rowling. Who among the following displays in her best work the dual influence of feminism and magic realism? In her work, we find the influence of feminism as well as magic realism. Here, J.K. Rowling, no. Muriel Spark, no. Pat Barker, no. The right answer is Angela Carter. Angela Carter, ठीक है, she is actually a magic realist writer, and in her works we find the influence of feminism as well. So Angela Carter is the right answer. Angela, exactly. What is the famous novel of Angela Carter? Will you tell me? Will you write in the comment box what is the famous novel of Angela Carter's famous novel? Write down in the comment box. Magic realism is a style of literary fiction and art. It paints a realistic view of the world while also adding magic elements, often blurring the lines between fantasy and reality. And magic realism often refers to the literature in particular with magical and supernatural theme. ठीक है? Who wrote the Prime Niece of Jean Brodie? Agatha Christie, Jane Austen, Muriel Spark, Virginia Woolf. किसने लिखा है? The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. मिस दिन ब्रूडी किसने लिखा है? दिस नॉवेल हियर किसने लिखा है? द वाइट चिल्ड्रन, इजंट इट? एंजेला कार्टर्स famous work. So who wrote the prime of Miss Jean Brodie? एंजेला कार्टर फेमस नॉवेल क्या है? दैट इज वाइट चिल्ड्रन, इजंट इट? वाइट चिल्ड्रन. This is the last novel of Angela Carter. Dora and Nora. Dora and Nora are the characters. Here, what would the right answer here? What would be the right answer here? The prime of Miss Jean Brodie. It is written by Muriel Sprague. Okay, Muriel Sprague. Muriel Sprague has written that is the prime of Miss Jean Brodie. So C is the right answer. Next question. Who wrote the novel Memento Mori? Memento Mori. J.D. Salinger, Muriel Sprague, Virginia Woolf, George Orwell. किसने लिखा है the novel Memento Mori? Memento Mori was written by whom? Memento Mori was written by here. The right answer is actually किसने लिखा है? Do write in the comment box. Do write as well. So the prime of Miss Jean Brodie was by whom? Muriel Sprague. Again, Memento Mori is also written by Muriel Sprague. Remember that Muriel Sprague's famous works are Memento Mori, The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. ठीक है, Muriel Sprague. Now, what do you mean by the word Memento Mori? Now, this is very important. No, it was actually Muriel Sprague. Okay, hold on. So, what is the meaning of Memento Mori? Remember the present, live life to the fullest. Remember you must die. Embrace the future. Memento Mori by Muriel Sprague. By Muriel Sprague. Has written Memento Mori. Okay, you are saying life to the fullest. No, Memento Mori means no, it is not. Okay, B was that one. Okay, that one got it from 18. Okay, so what is the meaning of Memento Mori? Memento Mori is actually here. Remember, you must die. Memento Mori means क्या है? Remember, you must die. That is remember that you must die. Memento Mori. ठीक है? Memento Mori, that remember you must die. Okay, by Muriel Sprague. ठीक है, याद रखना. Okay, चलो next question. Memento Mori, sorry, here it explanation you see. Memento Mori is a novel by Scottish author Muriel Sprague, published in Macmillan 1959. The title Latin for remember you. The title Latin in Latin, remember you must die. References are common trope. This is represented in the novel by a series of insidious phone calls made to the elderly dame lately post-nonal acquaintances. So Memento Mori is actually remember you must die by the Scottish author Muriel Sprague. So C was actually a Scottish author Muriel Sprague written Memento Mori, the Miss Jean Brodie as well. Okay, these are very important questions. Okay, very important questions. Okay, which of the following works by David Mallow? Okay, questions usually often comes from David Mallow. Tells the story of the Roman poet Ovid. The Roman poet Ovid was popularly known for his work Metamorphosis. Ovid's during his exile on his Tomies. ठीक है? And who has written the short story Metamorphosis? So, which of the following works by David Mallow tells the story of Roman poet Ovid during his exile in Tomies? Remembering Babylon, The Great Wall, the Conversations at Carlo Greek, or An Imaginary Life? Who has written the Metamorphosis, the short story? Okay, so here which of the following works by David Mallow tells the story of Roman poet Ovid during his exile in Tomies? Here the right answer is actually An Imaginary Life. David Mallow is a very famous writer, very important writer. Okay, Kafka has written Franz Kafka has written the Metamorphosis, the short story. Here Ovid has also Ovid's Metamorphosis. Okay, the Roman poet Ovid during his exile. Here it is An Imaginary Life. An Imaginary Life by David Mallow, where we find the story of Roman poet Ovid during his exile in Tomies. So An Imaginary Life is the right answer. You see, An Imaginary Life by the author, that is David Mallow, tells a very big story in very few words. The story is set in the time of Roman Empire.
with the protagonist and narrating character, the Roman poet Ovid. Ovid had lived a life of mischief and expressed prior to his exile in a backwater called Tomis. Okay, an imaginary life by David Malou. Who is the author of the novel The Mandelbaum Gate? The Mandelbaum Gate. Another famous work by the Scottish novelist. Okay, another famous work by the Scottish novelist here. The Mandelbaum Gate. Okay, the Miss Jean Brodie, Memento Mori, Mandelbaum Gate. These are famous work by Muriel Spark. So Jane Austen's Agatha Christie, Muriel Spark, J.K. Rowling. Again, this is by Muriel Spark. Muriel Spark has written this Mandelbaum Gate. And here, which gate is mentioned here? Where is the novel? The Mandelbaum Gate primarily set. The novel Mandelbaum Gate by Muriel Spark. Okay, Muriel Spark, the Scottish novelist, has written exactly. Moving on to question number 22. Muriel Spark has written this novel here. Got it? The Mandelbaum Gate primarily set in New York City, London, Paris, Jerusalem. Okay, these are famous questions for these are very important questions, favorite questions for UGC aspirants as well. What is the novel The Mandelbaum Gate? Mandelbaum Gate is a work by Muriel Spark. Okay? And this here it is said in primarily this gate is actually gate of Jerusalem. This is gate of Jerusalem. So D is the right answer. Okay? Jerusalem. Okay, so primarily said in Jerusalem. The Mandelbaum Gate is a novel written by the Scottish novelist Muriel Spark, published in 1965. And the title refers to Mandelbaum Gate in Jerusalem, around which the novel is set. Okay, the novel is set in, that is Mandelbaum Gate in Jerusalem. Okay. I know. It is a very who wrote The Seven Lamps of Architecture? Yeah, you have only just completed your UG undergraduate. You have not yet completed your MA. You have not started your MA. So it is difficult to know all these things as well. I know, I can understand it. Even okay, after completing MA, we are just now also not able to understand, not able to remember. Even sometimes we also forget the authors. I mean, even there are some authors we even do not know. Okay, even I do not know. Okay, so it is not possible for everyone to know every writers as well. Even I do not know. Okay, there are tons of writers. Okay, I even do not know. Okay. You should know this answer, because it is very it is very important work. The Seven Lamps of Architecture. Okay, which contain 14 plates. Okay, each by the author and promoted the virtues. But these are important questions. Okay, these are important. You must have to follow. Okay, questions often comes from Muriel Spark, Harold Bloom, जॉन रस्किन. सो विलियम वर्ड्सवर्थ तो नहीं होगा, जॉन फिट्स तो नहीं होगा, सैमुअल टेलर कोल्ड्रिच तो नहीं होगा. दैट इज जॉन रस्किन. जॉन रस्किन का फेमस वर्क है सेवन लैम्प्स ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर. रिमेंबर, जॉन रस्किन का फेमस वर्क क्या है? सेवन लैम्प्स ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर, which contain 14 plates each by the author and promoted the virtues of secular and Protestant form of Gothic. So John Ruskin has written the Seven Lamps of Architecture. Exactly. John Ruskin, developing interest in architecture, particularly in the Gothic, led the first work to bear his name, that is the Seven Lamps of Architecture. Okay, seven, because he was an architect. He had interest in architecture. That's why, particularly in the Gothic, and led to the first work to bear his name, that is the Seven Lamps of Architecture, published in 1849. It contains 14 plates, each by the author. The title refers to seven moral categories. Seven lamps, when here referring the seven moral categories that Ruskin considered vital to and inseparable from all architecture. One is sacrifice, truth, power, beauty, life, memory, and audience. These are the seven vital things. Okay, sacrifice, truth, power, beauty, life, memory, and obedience. All would provide recurring themes in his future work, and Seven Lamps promoted the virtues of secular and Protestant form of Gothic. So John Ruskin here, who has given pathetic fallacy as well, that can say, who becomes Gregor Samsa's caretaker. Gregor Samsa's caretaker, after his metamorphosis from a human into a monstrous vermin in Kafka's Metamorphosis, who was the sister of Gregor Samsa. Who was the sister of Gregor Samsa? The protagonist of this short story Metamorphosis is actually Gregor Samsa, and who was his sister? I'll be ending very soon. I have only probably one question left. Okay. It is Greta Samsa. Okay. It is Greta Samsa. Okay. Sister of Gregor Samsa is Greta Samsa, जिसने क्या किया था जब उसको ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन हुआ था, ग्रीटा ने कुछ दिन के लिए, कुछ समय के लिए she was taking care of him, but at last even she denied it. Okay, after some time even she did not. And Lewis Carroll's Alice in the Wonderworld, the Horathian satire, Manichaean satire, Jubilant satire, and now none of these. Okay, Lewis Carroll's Alice in the World is actually a Manichaean satire. Okay, this is B. Okay, this is B. Alice in the Wonderworld is a Manichaean satire, and here is the explanation. Lewis Carroll's Alice in the Wonderworld is a Manichaean satire in the sense that it is Alice's curiosity which ultimately causes her plight. उसका curiosity ही causes her plight. Alice Adventure in Wonderworld is an 1865 English novel by Lewis Carroll. It details the story of a young girl named Alice who falls through a rabbit hole into a fantasy world of anthropomorphic creatures. It is seen as an example of literary nonsense genre. So nonsense genre, remember, this is an example of literary nonsense genre. It received positive reviews upon release and is now one of the best known works of Victorian literature. Its narrative, its structure, characters and imagery have widespread influence on popular culture and literature, especially in the fantasy genre. That is, rabbit कहाँ पे पड़ता है? Who falls through a rabbit hole into a fantasy world of anthropomorphic creatures. ठीक है? So here I will be ending this session here. Okay. These are new questions. Remember these questions once. Watch it once more again and write down all these questions in a copybook. Okay, I'll be ending the session. Good night. See you soon tomorrow. Okay, I'll be ending the session here. Thank you for watching this video. I'll be ending the session here. Okay. Good night.